What is up, Scrub fam? Pat here, back with another deck profile. This one is for Momo Yaoyorozu. It has been a really long time since I've done that introduction. For those of you guys who are longtime fans of me or have been following me from the Dragon Ball slash 3XG production days, hopefully that trip down memory lane was fun for you. For those of you who are subscribed to me for Epic 7, please understand that I was a card game YouTuber before I was a mobile game YouTuber. But regardless, my goal has always been the same, which is to help you, the viewer, accomplish your goals in whatever game that you are trying to play. And, again, we do it now for mobile games, but we used to do it for card games. And I feel like given my skill set as a competitive card game player, it really doesn't hurt me to make one of these, especially since the topic I'm making a video on, which is a Momo Yaoyorozu deck profile, I don't really feel like there is a super good resource for it. So yeah, I decided to make the video. There won't always be a card game related video on this channel. I'll still primarily be doing E7 content. So again, I hope you will understand. So why make the video if it's not already obvious? So about a month to 2 months ago, I had something happen to me. My dog passed away. Was really in a funk. It's been a really miserable 2 years for me. So a couple of my friends decided to invite me down to the local shop and pick up the My Hero Academia card game. I had a lot of reservations about it, but it was a good way for me to reconnect with people after, let's be honest, a pretty bad 2 years, COVID and everything else considered. So yeah, again, like I said, if you're here from Dragon Ball, welcome back. You probably remember me as the guy who took this dude to 2 national top cut placings when everyone thought he was bad. And then you also might remember me as the guy who, prior to this past weekend, was the only one crazy enough to play this character. So yeah, both of these characters in Dragon Ball reward you for having excellent defensive sequencing. Basically, if you can play good defense, you can win the game pretty much any matchup with them. So I wanted to, coming into My Hero, because that's what I like to play, is control and good defensive characters. I asked, what's the best defensive character in the game? And the answer I got from Facebook and my friends is Momo Yaoyorozu. Now, when I like to either play a character in a game or I want to make a guide on a character in the game, I try to understand everything about the character. I try really hard to learn everything there possibly is to know about it. I research it super thoroughly, and then I try to internalize it and figure out what is the best approach to playing it. Learning this character has been like pulling teeth. There is so little information out there for this character, and most of the videos that I've watched, and trust me, I've watched all of them. If you have a Momo video on YouTube, I've probably watched your video multiple times. They all make assumptions like I know exactly how to play the character, or I know everything about the character, and I don't really feel like they do a super amazing job at it. The closest I have found has been Ty's House of Cards, his budget Momo deck profile. And I really enjoy a lot of his content because he takes the time to explain the cards, why he plays them, and like things you can possibly do with the character. So yeah, I really enjoy that. I also really enjoy Shane Duckworth's content, as well as the recent profiles that he's done with Tony 2. They're both fantastic, and that is the kind of content I am hoping to see from My Hero content creators in the future. I really like their content, but as far as I can tell, they don't do one for Momo. So here we are. I decided to do one for Momo because, again, you try to be the change you want to see in the world. So as someone who has pretty much only attempted to play UFS like, 8 to 10 years ago when Chun-Li was really good with Rejection and Feline Spike, here's my thoughts after 5 weeks with this game and trying to figure out what to do with it. So let's go over the character. It is Momo Yaoyorozu. She is a 6-hander with 26 life. Her symbols are all, good, and life. I am on the all symbol for this deck profile, although you can easily be on good. The only reason I am on all is because I have erase in the sideboard. Nothing in my main board could, is uniquely only all. You can obviously play the same 50 I'm going to show you on the good symbol. So that is a good start. So if you're in one of those two colors, that's great. I think a lot of things I'm going to talk about can be applied to life. I actually think life does have a place with this character. So yeah, let's talk about the enhances. First enhance, destroy one foundation, build one asset or weapon foundation from your card pool face up. Period. That's important. This attack gets +2 or -2 speed. So you can enhance destroy one foundation, not build a foundation or asset, and give something +2 or -2 speed, which means you can use that in desperation. You don't get full value for it to push an attack through by giving it 2 speed. Or, more importantly, you give your opponent's attack -2 speed. And if you're playing this character correctly, you really aren't losing that much advantage when you blow up a foundation to give it -2 speed, because there are ways for you to, and I'll talk about those when we talk about packages in a second, get back the foundation that you destroyed, or at least replace it, so that way you can kind of keep this loop going of just perpetually giving things -2 speed and accruing value over the course of a game. Her next enhance is a once per turn. You remove one of your foundations from your staging area from the game to add one weapon card from your discard pile to your hand. Really, really good for obviously picking up an attack to finish off your opponent when they are low on life. That is the route I see most other people trying to play Momo use it for. But more importantly, get you a perfect block on defense. And the perfect block is probably not what you're thinking it is, but yeah, it gets you a specific block on defense. So you are allowed to essentially always have one freebie in the can, similar to Kirishima. He will always have at least 1 to 2 really good blocks. She is very much the same way. And the thing is, most of the blocks that she can pick up, the good ones, you're getting value for blocking with them. So you don't really worry that much about losing the foundation. Assuming you're building correctly, your first 2 turns are usually just build, don't really attack or poke, then you'll probably be fine with this deck. So let us talk now about the actual deck. I've divided the deck into 3 packages. We have a defensive package, we have an offensive package, and then we have everything else, which is utility and the rest of the offensive cards. So let us start with defense, because we started talking about how this is a defensive sequencing character, so I want to start there first. So we have 4 quick creations, then we have 1 earphone jack and 4 rising starlets, and then we have 4 copies of preparing for battle. All of these cards are weapons, which means that all of these cards can be picked up with the remove from game ability on Momo. Now, the reason why I'm pointing all of these out, and this is why this is the defensive package, is you'll notice preparing for battle is a low block, quick creation is a mid block, rising starlet and earphone jack are high blocks. Now, you could block with the offensive lineup of the mids, the highs, the lows that I have in here, and that's certainly an option. These are better because when you block with a card like quick creation, if your opponent tries to aggress on you even more and attack you again, you can destroy a foundation to build this down. And the thing is, most of these cards, except for earphone jack here, which is just here for grindier matchups, and it's a ridiculous 1 block and it just is a weapon, you get advantage when you block with any of these. So these are the 3 preferred blocks every time, because when you block with preparing for battle, it has breaker, and then if they attack again, you get to build it down for free and give it -2 speed. If you block with quick creation, it has breaker, so their next card is again 1 harder to block with, and then you get to build it down for free. And then rising starlet, if you block with this card and they attack again, you just get free life. So the essential way to play the deck is block with these 3 cards if you can, build them, use Momo to destroy them, and then get them back. So obviously, going over the cards again, if you don't know what they do, rising starlet, again, if you block with it and then build it, you'd get 1 health back. And then it has enhanced during your turn. You can flip it face down to build a weapon, asset, or foundation, which is again one of these cards. So you'll obviously play it, build it, gain a life, flip it, build another one, sack it for -2 speed, build one of these down, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of how this card is supposed to work. You are blocking with it for health, building it down, and then on your turn, basically flipping it to get more builds so you can kind of get those resources to go for the big kill turn in the offensive package. And then when it's useless and it's face down, after you've hopefully committed it, you pawn it off, put it into your discard pile, build something else. Quick Creation is probably the most important card in the deck aside from Staff Strike. So what this card does is has commit to add the top card. Is very important that you keep track of what the top card of your deck or your discard pile is at all times. You have the top card of your discard pile to your card pool, which means then after you've added it, if it's something like Rising Starlet, you can sack a foundation, give it -2 speed, and then build the Rising Starlet down and then gain the life. And then obviously next attack, you can pawn this off, use another Quick Creation, put the Rising Starlet back in your card pool, and then build it down, so on and so forth. It's basically a loop. More importantly than that, though, if your opponent ever goes into deadlock with this card is just almost an auto win because it has deadlock first enhance, which doesn't come up all the time, but it sometimes comes up, especially against like Kirishima players who don't know how to keep things out of their stage. You double your damage and speed on a weapon attack here. So yeah, this card's really good. You want to try and get as many of these as you can in play. I find that 2 is usually enough to win the game. If you have 4 and you haven't won, then something seriously wrong has happened. So yeah, that's those cards. Next up is Preparing for Battle, which has the enhance, discard, you commit it, discard a card, and then draw a card. So now what you do with Preparing for Battle is you obviously you discard one of these cards, the weapon cards. So it's the top card of your discard pile. And then you use Quick Creation to put it into your card pool so that you can sack a foundation to build that card that you had on top of your discard pile into your card pool. Right? After you have spent this card, it's committed during a turn. You can also pawn it off for -2 speed to make it the top card of your discard pile to again commit Quick Creation to build the Preparing for Battle so that the next combat you can then sack a foundation and build Preparing for Battle out. So hopefully you start to understand in my haphazard way of explaining this how this loop actually works. You want to be sacking weapon foundations so that's the top card of your discard pile, Quick Create, get it into your card pool, next attack, build it back down, and so on and so forth. So you can keep looping breakers on lows, gain health on highs, keep looping breakers on mids. So that is how you play the deck on defense. You want to, again, be using these cards. These are always the ones you want to be using, if possible. Now, that's not always the case. The offensive cards, you'll notice, I play 4 Staff Strikes, 4 Capture Nets, and 4 Unwavering Slashes. It's the same exact thing here. You get Unwavering Slash if you need a low, and for some reason Preparing for Battle doesn't do the job. You use Staff Strike if you need a mid, and for some reason you've already used all your Quick Creations because you can't sack those. And then you use Capture Net for highs if you just for some reason can't get Rising Starlet. But more importantly than that, these are the offensive cards. These are how you win the game. The primary card to win the game with is Staff Strike. It is a 6 difficulty, which is really hard to pass. It's actually more like an 8 difficulty because you're always going to want to be playing for its combo. So it is a 4 mid, 6 damage. And then it has combo, weapon, foundation. What that means is that if your card pool, it will end up having to look like this. A weapon attack, or it could be something like Rising Starlight, a weapon foundation. Then it needs to be a foundation and then a Staff Strike in that order. It must always be that. It's not like if you can't have this, you can't just have Rising Starlight, which is a weapon and a foundation. It will not work. You must have a weapon card, so either a weapon attack or a weapon foundation or even like a weapon asset into any foundation into Staff Strike. And because of progressive difficulty, again, 6 + 2, 1, 2, + 6 is 8. This is basically an 8 difficulty. But this is how you win the game because it has combo enhance. The next 2 weapon cards you play ignore progressive difficulty. What that means is that the next 2 cards you have with the weapon keyword, whether they are foundations or weapons, you only need to check the printed. So by doing that, you essentially get to cheat the game's engine and attack when you normally wouldn't be able to attack. Because if you've played any other character, trying to attack at this point is for an 8. That's realistically, you're going to check at least 3 foundations, or I should say commit 3 foundations, no matter what at that point. But once you've got that combo down, you can play any attack as if it was the very first attack you played each turn. So, The next thing is enhance. You draw a card for each card or each foundation in your card pool, which is essential because how you're going to win is use Staff Strike and then use the card draw and other things to set up, such as, you'll get it, give me a second here. You'll use Quick Creation to add the top card of your discard pile to your card pool. So now let's say it's something like Rising Starlight, right? So now if you have another Staff Strike, you can just Staff Strike again. And then you will be able to draw 2 cards off of this Staff Strike. And then obviously if you have a bunch of Quick Creations, you can just add as many foundations as you want to the pool, draw like a full grip, and then just keep trying to go for game. The kill turn is essentially start a Staff Strike chain and then try to keep it going as long as possible. You can go like 10, 12 attacks as long as you keep, finding a way to sequence so that it always is weapon, foundation into Staff Strike, and then this is the start of the new chain. You have to find a way to get a weapon and a foundation and then another Staff Strike. So again, if in this example you could have Rising Starlight here, so the Staff Strike is the weapon and then Rising Starlight is the foundation into another Staff Strike. Alternatively, you can, I'll just pull like a random foundation here. You could have it be Staff Strike, Rising Starlight as the weapon. It can't be fixed as the foundation in Staff Strike, and that will keep the chain going. Also do note, at this point, it does have Powerful 2, so this can also be your kill shot. But I find that the way you're basically just trying to win is brute forcing them by just hitting them with so many attacks with the Staff Strike. So hopefully you understand now how Staff Strike works. That's kind of how we're setting up the kill turns. Every other attack in this deck is basically built around Staff Strike. I built it with Staff Strike in mind. Staff Strike is what everything comes off of. So let's talk about those other cards now so you can kind of understand where I'm going with the rest of this deck. So next we'll talk about Unwavering Slash, which is a 4 mid for 4 or 5 difficulty 3 check. It also has Powerful 2, so that's important to note, so that if you somehow have momentum, it is another way to cash in for a big bit of damage. And then obviously you can pump it like 2 speed or whatever with Yaoyorozu. So it has Enhance, discard a card from your hand to build 1 asset from your discard pile. So the main reason to play this card is you can discard any card from your hand to get either Earphone Jack for the grindy matchups and the restand if you are somehow short on resources, or Quick Creation to basically set up this card to give +2 damage, or for defensively, obviously, -2 damage. Do note, it's any card in your discard pile, right? In your hand to get any of these out of your discard pile. So if you have Quick Creation or Earphone Jack in your hand, you can just discard them, and then since they're in your yard, it is a valid target. You don't have to target it like a game like Magic where this card already has to exist. So if you just have Quick Creation in your hand, it's probably simply better for you to just open your turn with Unwavering Slash and just free get the Quick Creation than just building the Quick Creation. It also has, if you have at least 1 asset ready, which you will because you're going to discard it to get one of these, then you get to untap a foundation that has not been readied once this turn, and then you get to draw a card. So even if you don't ready the foundation, you still get to draw the card. So the card replaces itself. It has Powerful, so it can go for a kill. It gets you, arguably, again, the most important card in your deck. It helps you get these into play, these Quick Creations. So that's why we play it. Also, do note, it is a charge attack, so that is going to be relevant for when we talk about some of the other attacks later. So that's why we play Unwavering Slash. Think of it not so much as an attack, but as a setup card. It's kind of like a poke that gets you the necessary pieces to set up your big kill turn for Staff Strike. Make your Staff Strike turn as impactful as possible. I usually try and throw one of these out on turn 2, and then obviously if I'm not ready to kill on turn 3, and I want to wait for turn 4 or later, then yeah, you'll poke with this card as well. Last attack is Create Capture Net. This is another core because it is, again, this high block that we really covet. It is also a charged weapon attack, 4 difficulty 3 check. It has Combo Foundation. So if the card preceding it is a foundation, it can be something like, again, like a Preparing for Battle. It could be any foundation. It does not have to be a weapon one. it will gain a combo enhance of this attack gains stun 2. Keep in mind that is 2 separate things. So your first enhance gives it stun 2. It passes back to your opponent, and then you stun 2 them. So they have a chance to kind of like interrupt it with like fulfilling my duty, for example. They can just end the enhanced step so that way you don't actually get the stun off. So keep that in mind. And then it has enhance. Build 1 foundation from your card pool face up, which is super useful because if for some reason your staff strike chain fails, you don't think you can close out a game, you do have that +2 progressive difficulty, right? So it is a valid thing to just play 2 nets at 4 and then just cash in whatever foundations are in the pool so that you can prepare for defense on the next turn. So that's really important. The other obvious major thing to play it on is the stun. Stunning is how we set up kill turns. So yeah, you can either use it to set up a kill turn with its stun ability. Usually I find myself leading off with this. You'll go foundation into net, stun them 2, get the foundation out of the pool, then go foundation staff strike. So you either use that method to set up the start of your kill turn, or you can use it as a poke on turn 2 while still building and potentially try and steal a momentum to set up for powerful later on in the game. Or again, like I said earlier, you end a chain of staff strikes that you know you can't kill on with 2 of these, build the 2 foundations, and then prepare for defense. And again, it is a high block, just like Rising Starlet, so that's also why we play the card. So let's talk about every other card in the deck, because at this point, I think we've ironed out how to play defense, how to set up, how to combo out a staff strike turn. So let's talk about the other cards in the deck. Create Bow Staff. I don't see anybody play this card. I've seen, I think, 1, maybe 2 videos. I think Ty's budget profile plays this card, and like 1 other guy plays this card. This card is nuts. The only reason it's not at 4 is because 1, I don't have a lot of room, and 2, if you have 4, I find that I see it way too often, and it kind of clogs my hand. So this is, in my opinion, one of the best cards to prepare for defense, like we talked about with net here. So it can be functions similar to net in allowing you to prepare for defense, and it's also a great card on your staff strike turn. 4 difficulty, 3 check, really terrible low block, and it's a 4 for 4, so nothing like super flashy. It has enhance, add 1 weapon, foundation, or asset from your discard pile to either your card pool or your hand. So now you want to have it so it's like this. We staff strike, right? Get -2 progressive difficulty. You play Bow Staff, and off of Bow Staff, you add this to your card pool, right? That is a perfect staff strike chain because it goes weapon into foundation, which means you can play another staff strike for basically no progressive. So this is on a 6, and then you obviously get to draw with whatever is before it. But you can see now if I play another Bow Staff at 4 here, I get to pick up, say, a Rising Starlet. And then you get to play another Staff Strike here, and so on and so forth. So it's basically a nice, neat, compact card that gets you a perfect Staff Strike chain every time. So you go Staff Strike, Bow Staff, Staff Strike, Bow Staff, Staff Strike, Bow Staff until you're out of Bow Staffs, and then obviously you can remove and pick up another one. But let's say for whatever reason you don't have the Staff Strike turn ready to go, and you want to play more defense, you can just play this as a poke for 4, boost it up, and build something that's already in the card pool, for example, off of Yaoyorozu, and then you can take a Rising Starlet and just sit it in your hand to block with next turn. So it functions kind of like an Eternal Witness from Magic in that it gets you the most relevant block that you think you're going to need on your turn. Like if I'm playing against like Suyu or Ochako, I get Rising Starlet. If I'm playing against like maybe All Might, he has like some decent mids, I'll get that. If I'm playing against like Todoroki, who has a bunch of good lows, I'll just get Preparing for Battle, and I'll just put these cards in my hand, and we go back to that loop we talked about in the defensive section at the start of the video. Again, I don't always want to see this card. This card is super big role player, and I think every Momo deck should play at least the minimum of these attacks, basically. I think you should play at least these. I don't play this card, by the way, in my list, the Binding Cloth Assault, because it's kind of, it feels like more win more. I don't really feel like it helps me when I am behind, because it only gets you the discard 1 to draw 2 in really weird scenarios. So obviously, yes, you can discard to put a weapon asset on the top, so has good synergy with quick creation, and it finds the potentially another staff strike, which is nice. But you only get that if you combo off of a weapon before it. So when you look at what we already have, right? So it's decent here, right? If we go Cloth Assault into Capturing Net, it's decent here, right? But like off of Bow Staff, I just explained it to you. We're only going to use this to pick up if we're going to play defense. If we're going to go for a Staff Strike turn, like this is a non-bow. Like adding a Foundation here, maybe not this one particularly, but like it doesn't feel super impactful. And like honestly, Staff Strike, it's not super great here either, because then you only have one more card slot. And then if you use that non-progressive to build something like Preparing for Battle, then you have to check a Staff Strike to keep going at like some ridiculous difficulty that you'll never pass. And then same thing here. I feel like for Unwavering Slash, it's just like I'd rather be using this to start a turn as well. Like, so that's why I don't really play it. I know it's not like super great reasoning, but if you like it, that's fine. But me personally, I think you play at least these 15. The last attack in the deck, I'm playing a bit greedy. I see a lot of people play 15 with her, is Improvised Blade, because it's a 4 diff for 3 check, 3 mid, 4 damage. It has a combo enhance of if the card prior to it is a charge card, which is why we pointed out charge on Wavering Slash or Net, then you get +1 damage to every card in your card pool. So I find I either win the game through just staff striking them to death with Bow Staff, or when I don't have that combo available to me anymore, I will staff strike on this into one of these 2 attacks as my first attack to set up a charge into Improvised Blade for +10 or +12 or whatever, 15, however long my card pool is. And at that point, I'm using this to confirm if they have no more blocks, this is a kill shot. So even if they're like a super tanky guy, that is basically my kill shot. So I'm either going to win through just hitting you with a million staff strikes or ending the chain in a blade for a bajillion damage. So that is my attack lineup. It's a little bit long-winded on how I got here. Hopefully my explanations so far, you're still with me. So let's talk about the rest of the deck. It can't be fixed. It is a 0 difficulty, 5 check. We are primarily playing it because it is a 1 high block. Also, it has a response. After your opponent makes you commit any number of foundations, you get to flip this card and build. So one of the big weaknesses of Momo is that she's really bad against aggressive decks. Aggressive decks usually, but not always, play a lot of stun, where they try to commit you, such as like even like a 20 meter tongue strike from like Suyu can commit a foundation. So those decks are trying to top us down while we are most vulnerable. Like Momo, I just showed you, has a really powerful defense loop. You will die in the early turns if you're going to die in this game. I feel like you either have a bad hand, and in which case you'll basically cycle your deck at least once, or you're going to die early. So this is one of those ways we stave off early aggro. Good blocks. If they try and tap us out, we flip it. We get to build the top card of our deck, so we don't really lose that resource, so we can still play good defense. It is the only 0 check basically in the 2 colors that she's playing, by the way, which is why I think you should be playing it. A Precious Lesson. This is a card I think you should mulligan for in literally every single matchup. This is very core to having a good turn 1, turn 2. It has a response of flipping it after you either remove or destroy one of your cards, either by your opponent's effects or yours, and it lets you build the top card of your deck. So basically, if you blow up, say, a Preparing for Battle after you've committed it and drawn it, you get to flip this, build the top card of your deck, and you don't lose any advantage. You lose no tempo. So it's super important for getting it started because it's essentially ramp when you think about it. You're not really losing the foundation, and it lets you get resources out of a card like Preparing for Battle, for example. You just get to bin it, use it, move on. 4 of destined for mainstream success because the card is literally a +0 for the most part. You are flipping it, and then you call attack, and if it's an attack, cool, you draw it. If it's not an attack, that means great, you're going to check good, which means that you can use it to use that information how you will. You can use it to either proceed with a staff strike loop if you know that you're going to check good, or any other attack. It's just kind of like is the coast clear to have an aggressive turn? If it's not, you're at least getting card value out of it. So it's just really good card, and I think it should be like a 4 of in most colors that can play, just because, again, it does replace itself. The last card to round out the core 46 that I've been playing is Specialist of Sound, because the card is honestly just like the best defensive foundation I found in the game. It's 2 difficulty, 5 check. Response after your opponent plays an attack, give it -3 speed. Remember, Momo gives -2 speed as well. She can also give -2 speed. So with this card and this card, like, you can literally specialist to give it -3, then eat your own specialist, give it -2 more. So it becomes trivially easy to block an attack for each specialist you have. So if you have like 3 specialists in play, your opponent has to chew through a lot to kill you, because it's like first one's -3, second one's -3. Let's say we eat it, it's -5. Like, each of these represents a potential -5 speed. And then remember, you get to pick up whatever you want for a block. So it's just super, super good. This card is how we play good sequencing and good defense. So that's why we have to play it at 4. And I really think, this card not being in life is the main reason to go good or all. I really think it's just that good. It also has the response. If you check it, you get to see what the next card of your deck is. You can reveal it and see if it checks good. So you don't always have to do that, but it's just nice to know, again, for the same reason. Like, if you're just unsure if it's you're going to check good on a staff strike, like let's say you went a weapon, like you had a setup turn, right, where you were like, we're going to play Unwavering, and then you were thinking about building, right? You're just thinking about building, like, okay, I got my quick creation off this, I'll just build a foundation, and then you check this and you see that it's a 5 check. And you see your opponent just doesn't have a lot of resources, and you somehow just have everything is just kind of lined up, like none of your foundations are committed yet. You're like, all right, cool, let's start YOLOing and going for a staff strike. So that's why the card is super, super good. So that is the end of the core 46 from what I've found. I personally think, as a side note, every card game I've ever played has always rewarded me for playing the bare minimum. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that is what I've been operating under. So if you want to play more cards, that's fine. But for me, until I find a reason to, I'm sticking with 50. So here are the last 4 cards that I have in my list currently. These swap around a lot. If you're on good, these could be like passing the torch if you like it. They could be things like encouraging trading partner. One of these 2 cards, whether it's in your main or your side, you need this card. It doesn't matter what symbol you're on. If you're on life, this is your only option. If you're on good or all, you need to play this card, because there are too many things in the set that can one-shot you, things like Detroit Smash, or there are too many things that are really fast that you might not be able to stop, like a Recipro Burst. So you need this card or this card to reset them. This obviously doesn't reset damage, but this giving it 4 speed and then -2 from Momo should make anything manageable if you're using it correctly. This one is a bit better, because I find I have it as a 1 of in the deck, because I don't like the 4 check. It's a 2 for a 4. I really hate the 4 check on it. And it blocks terribly. Like 3 low is really bad. If I'm going to block with a 3 low, I might as well get the breaker from preparing for battle, especially since I always have access to it with the leader. I only play 1 because in almost every matchup, this does kind of matter. It's just not like always the best option, but like if you're playing against like a Jiro, you might be able to reset the pump from her leader, and that might allow you to tank a hit, or you reset the speed, make it more manageable. Froppy makes Frog Lashing not quite as punishing. But again, like, it doesn't always come up. There's always at least 1 card maybe inside of a matchup where it matters. But that's why I play at least the 1. But again, the bad check, and it's not super important. Obviously, you side up to a full play set if you were going to be taking this girl to any major tournament, just because you will see decks that can just cheese you, so you want more there. I wouldn't fault you for having a 2-2 split here on this, like 2 of this, 2 of any other card, like 2 passing the torch, for example. If you're not going to be in all, that's fine. I'm currently just testing. Start with the basics so that early game, I feel like I can make my pokes more meaningful because they'll be like 7 speed for 6, for example. And then like it can just force through some damage. Like if my opponent, like the other day when I was playing, my opponent's specialist, the what is it, the improvised weapon, to have a chance to be able to block it, and then just, you know, committing 2 of these and eating a foundation made it so that there's just no way. Like 4 speed, when it's that deep into the card pool, there was just no way he was blocking it. So yeah, this has been okay so far, but it's probably not the best option. Again, I leave it to you to decide what you want these cards to be. Like 1 or 2 you're so obvious, and then 2 of anything else. You could play 4, start with the basics, and side 4 of these. Again, sky's the limit. You know, play whatever you want. So hopefully in my rambling I have made sense. I have not done a card game related video in quite some time, but that is the Momo Yaoyorozu deck and how to pilot it kind of in a nutshell. As always, let me know down in the comments below how I did, if there's anything I can explain better to you, or if there's any other questions. As always, you know, DM me or things like that. Yep, so that's going to be it. Have a good one. I'll see y'all later.